there is internal control, and we have discussed related about the internal control is a tool of management. Means my mic is off due to some. So there is internal control is a basically tool of management, and in there are the various function. In the various function of related to, there are the proper supervision of internal audit, and there are staff appointed by the organization. So in internal control, there are the management is a basically check supervision of a accuracy and the reliability of the accounting data and other records to identify the weaker area of the operation. Means there are related about internal control is a basically tool of management, and in their management there is we have to be decide, and the management is decide to basically accuracy and the reliability of the financial statements. Financial statement like us, there are the balance sheet, there are the P&L, there are the vouchers, and other those uh, items are related to financial transactions. So they have to be identify what is the error or the weaker area in particular in financial transaction. So there they have to be identified. So they have to be appoint. There are the internal control to be increase. There are the operational efficiency of a business, because there is eye watching of the financial transaction by the internal control. So there is a basically increase effectiveness and efficiency in the particular business. So it is a basically meaning of internal control. And there are some institute like as American Institute, then ICAI, and Indian account Institute of Chartered Account of England. They have to be something about the internal control. So the first is American Institute of Public Account. They have to be defined internal control as a plan of the organization and the coordinate the methods. So in there are uh, measure adopted within a business to safeguard is assessed and check the accuracy and the reliability. So first of all thing, according to American Institute also and Chartered Account of England, and according to ICI, the internal control is basically there is to be coordinate, and you have to be checked the reliability of its account data, and there are promote operational efficiency, encourage adherence to prescribe the managerial policies to system of internal control extend beyond those matters who relate directly of the function of accounting and financial department. So the next thing is according to a Chartered Account of England, there is also the internal control not mean only the internal check or internal audit, but all the whole system to be financial and otherwise established by the management in order to carry on the business of company. So the same thing according to every, and the next we have to discuss what is the objective of internal control. So the first is minimize, if not on if not completely eliminate the wastage and inefficiency in the business operation and to safeguard asset of the business. Yes. So first of all, what is minimize means if there is wastage, if the in the different type of wastage, and there are the loss and the normal loss and abnormal loss and wastage spoilage. So you have to be checked what type of there is in your operation. So first of all, control your goods loss like as normal or abnormal or spoilage or there is a wastage. So if there is control or minimize the normal loss, abnormal loss, and others, then there is the number of units will be increase. If the number of units are increased, then the basically price of per unit will be decreased. So there is operation in the increase efficiency. The next thing is ensure high degree of accuracy and reliability of account data and promote the operational efficiency. Means if the financial statements are uh, governed by their the like some those are accountants and those are maintain the financial transactions. If they are not accurate, then there is the shareholders and owners are in a basically कि उनको कुछ भी नहीं पता है. So there is you have to be know what where the company is stand, कि भाई बेसिकली जो आपकी कंपनी है वो स्टैंड कहाँ कर रही है. देन यू हैव टू बी चेक द financial transaction, financial statements, vouchers, financial data. So there is everything, and the financial position or financial health of a particular company is dependent on the basically accounting data. So there is you have to be require high degree of accuracy and reliability. Then the next thing is the measure how the policy of management are being implemented. Means you have to be basically uh, uh, adopt the new creativity, new invention, or new innovation in your company. Then, if the basically policies are implement or not implement, so there is measure and what are the implication if the particular rules and regulation you have to be adopt or there is new plan is adopt, and what are the implications. So you have to be measure how far the policy of the management are being implemented. The next is the evaluate the efficiency of performance. If you have to be checked in a particular month of a company, what is the performance of particular company, or in a quarter, or in a half yearly, or in a yearly, and you have to compare with the last year performance also. So you have to be evaluate the efficiency of performance in all aspect of business activity and highlight the weaknesses. So there are the different type of objective of internal control. The next thing is form of internal control. In the forms, the different type of forms, the first is accounting control. Now, what is the accounting control? It is a basically or related to about there is the accounting principles. Means it ensure the correct and reliable record of transaction in conformity will normally accepted accounting principles. Means they have to be compared the plan of organization, then procedures, then record that are concerned with directly related to the safeguard of asset and liability of financial record. And in the accounting financial control include there are the budgetary control. Means budgetary control is a basically financial decision or management decision how much you have to be budget invest on the particular product. If there the product A, product B, and product C, and product D, then how much unit you have to be produce and how much budget you have to be invest, and which product will be carry forward and which product will be shut down. So there is every decision is depend on the accounting data, and there is a and the decision made by the management related about the budgetary control and standard cost of control, SAP balancing ledger and bank reconciliation, internal check and internal auditing. So the first thing is accounting control in is about related about the accounting. Means about what is the accounting. There are the different type of aspects of accountings, procedures, and accounting standards, accounting principles, records. So you have to be discussed and related about the internal control. The first is accounting control. And in accounting control, there is deal related to the recording of transactions, and the transactions are to be safeguard of assets and to prescribe the managerial policies. And the next thing is after accounting control, the next is administrative control. And the administrative control is related about to the management. In there are the basically what is the plan of organization means there are administrative work is discussed in administrative control, like as there are the anything plan of the organization to procedures, record keeping, and the distribution of authority and the process of decision making, like as the time and motion study, quality control through the inspection, statistical analysis, performance evaluation, and the auditors should be make careful review of accounting control as they have been direct bearing the reliability of financial statement, and there is primarily concerned with the accounting control. So in administrative control we have to be discussed related about the plan of organization, and there in the plan of organization related about how to be record keeping we have to discuss in the cost accounting, like as in the material control and in overhead there is the like as LIFO, FIFO, weighted average. Then you have to be discussed related about how much the materials are be uh, there is issued and they are received and the closing balance. So there is a and the work is related about administration. Then what type of quality in to be in the particular goods. So you have to discuss also quality control through the inspection, and there is you have to evaluate the performance means how much goods you have to receive and how much goods are issued, then how much balance are remained in your store. So there is a basically administrative work and we have to discuss in the administrative control. The next thing is internal control and auditor. Internal control and auditor is basically there are the internal control is made by the management. So the position of auditor regarding to internal control has been stated in the statement of auditing practices issued by the ICAI, and the duty of safeguarding asset of companies primarily that the management and the auditor is entitled rely upon the safeguarding and the internal audited institute by management. So in we have to be there are two types. The first is internal control and the another is auditor. And internal control is made and eye watching in the basically work of the administration or into the particular organization by the management, but the auditor is appointed by the ICAI. So they both are they have to be discussed or they have both got check the basically financial statement of a company means in the particular financial statements are in something they have find deficiency, error or weakness, or there is if the particular statement is fair or not fair. So they both are, it means the auditor is concerned only the evaluate of internal control to know its strength and weakness, means the first point and the first thing is or the first person who have to be check of the financial statement is the basically internal control. Then auditor is also check there the statement are inspected by the internal control. So in case of the find the internal control system is inadequate, then he should then the plan to carry out detailed examination of these area where the system is weak. So therefore the necessary for the auditor to acquaint himself fully with the internal control in course of their actual operation. Then the next is request of a good internal control system. How to be good in good internal control system? Then first is well developed plan of the organization with proper delegation, means they have to be proper plan, and in their plan how to be check the financial statement, how to be check the vouchers, how to be check other things, and what are the attachment or documents attached with the particular uh, particular transaction. So you have to be check everything, don't be take in other way, or you have to be checked with seriousness. So the first thing is it will be very disciplined, and no internal control system be effective without such plan of organization. Means that we have discussed in the last class auditing plan. So the first thing is you have to be discussed and made a proper plan of related about organization. The next thing is the scientific system of authorization and record procedures should be developed with a view provide proper control over asset and liability, revenue, expenses of organization. Yes, in like as in the before 10 year, before 20 year or 30 or 50 year, there is no computerization. But nowadays we have to facility related about the tele program and accounting concepts and accounting software. So you have to be fill every transactions related about your organization, because when you have to open and you have to attach all the documentation, means related about anything, there are the sale voucher, purchase voucher, contra voucher, if you have to put the money or the submit money into the bank and you have to be issued the money from the bank. So then you and payment to the your employees, if the payment to the creditors, if the payment to the debtors. So everything you should be in your transaction, or in your transaction will be in your software. If you have to be like as on tally or other your own software, so every transactions and the proper authorization, means proper date wise, like as if the March what are the transaction of particular month of March, or what is the transaction of month of April or May or June or July, and what is the transaction of last year. So you have to be up to date. Then the next thing is it should be developed the fashion as ensure assets are under the proper custody and they are not improper applied. So you have to be and what are the yeah, you know very well related about the assets transactions, expenditure transactions, revenue transaction. So it will be help to you. And the next thing is there are the system of healthy practice and the tradition should be developed with a view to discharge the duty and function of the various department of organization smoothly. Means you have to be proper practice. And the next thing is internal control system to be exercised by the personnel employed in the organization. Because why they have to be personnel employed in the organization? Because they know very well everything. Why there is experience is more important? Because you know about the system of the particular organization very well, what type of organization and what type of business related in particular organization. So there is internal control system is exercised, or there is a planned, or there is a uh, uh, evaluated by the personal employee in the organization, and they should be in a team of employee with the sound character. Sound character means they are very honest, disciplined, hard work, and there are the ethically are good and the integrity, who are properly trained and capable of discharging their responsibility. And the next, because those are internal control are eye watching on your organization. The next thing is there are the constant managerial supervision, and the periodical review of the system should be introduced with the view to make the system more efficient and effective. Then there are the check your progress related about the defined internal control. And uh, the next thing is internal audit. Internal audit is the basically describe, or there is the verification of the operation within the business by specially assigned staff. Means the basically internal audit, they have to be discussed or made by the business. They have to be assigned, they the proper staff. Those are very well known about how to be auditing, and what transaction to be look up, and what are the mistakes in the particular transactions, and what is the weakness of the particular organization. So you have to be assigned that type of, because they are very well trained and very well known about the transaction, and those are very experienced. And it is important tool of the management to evaluate the correctness of the record on a continuous basis in a organization. And because the internal audit is assigned by the business, so business by or organization, so if the final auditing you have to check uh, through the internal audit, then you have to first of all see the weakness or the error in your accounting. So the term of internal audit has been defined independent appraisal of activity within organization of review of operation as basis of service to management. It is a managerial control which functions by measuring and evaluating the effectiveness of other control. Then, according to Howard Sattler, there is the internal audit is a independent appraisal activity within organization for review of operation or there is the service to management. Means the internal audit is also same type of auditing, but it is review by the your own staff, and there is review of operation or service of the management. Overall, the objective of internal audit is to assist the management in effective discharge their responsibility by the furnishing with them to object. So first of all, the short internal audit assure management they have to be system of internal check and other type of control effective design and operation. And the next thing is they have to be internal audit in which the transactions are properly recorded and the accounts are maintained systematically and there is no possibility of manipulation of accounts or the misappropriation of property of the business, because you have to be see other things they have to be see about your transaction. So first of all you have to go through with your transaction, then you have to check the different type of uh, manipulation, different type of errors, then you have to see through the your staff. And the next thing is there are internal audit or the internal auditor carry a new task, the traditional function checking the arithmetically correctness of the accounts which help of vouchers and the document and verification of new items such as stock cash fixed assets is not sufficient, but internal audit now chart to the procedure, examine the efficiency, work on program of improvement, assigning the effectiveness of control. He is expected to plan and arrange his task for effective functioning. And there is a set clear objective of his own section. His objective gain the confidence of management and the demonstrate the value of his function in the area of performance. Means there are the first of all we have already discussed before 20 or 30 years there is very low or the very minimized work on the computer, but nowadays in the modern way there is the every transactions they have to be record in computer like as tally or there is a different on software. So there is arithmetical correctness is very well due to through the computer. But the modern things in internal auditor they have to be compare what type of work or program involved and how much effectiveness or efficiency in that work, and they have to also keep what type of and what is the objective they have to be decide at in the past or in the before year, and the plan is succeed or not succeed or the objective are uh, cleared, and they have to be discussed related about the value and the function or the area of performance. So there are different kind of functions nowadays related about the internal audit. So there is internal audit is like as a professional audit, and it is vary from the enterprises to enterprises according to size, and you have to be compare your things with the others business, means the same industry. Just a second. Next thing is there is a accounting audit or internal audit we have discussed. There is a basically large organization and they have to be carried out. There is like a CA, CS, to or the salary staff to be, or those are qualified related about when there are the those are CA and those are very good related into the uh, those are related into the basically uh, accounting. So you have to be uh, discuss with the proper channel or the proper proper salaried staff to be check your accounts, and they have to check what is your performance in the last year, what is performance in the last 5 years. So and there is related accounting standard auditing is a practice, and the procedure is prescribed for the professional auditor and by the professionals bodies to controlling the audit system in the country. And the same time, the internal audit must be aware of the policies and the program of the enterprises. He should be professionally competent to carry out the detailed examination of the work of the business, because you have to be see about your goodwill of your organization. If the goodwill will be very high in your market, so you have to check all the data, because if anything error find or found by the shareholders or by the owners or by the government, then your reputation in the market will be decreased. So you have to, those are large organization, they have to be, or they appoint the salaried person for the internal audit. Then they have to be check everything and daily basis. So there are objective of internal audit is the basically objective as to verify the correctness and authenticity of financial record and statistical record to present to the management. Means there is verify the basically those are accounting is uh, accounting statements, and what is the accounting statement, like as the balance sheet, P&L, trading account, vouchers. In vouchers there are the sales voucher, purchase vouchers, and if there is the issue the money from the bank, and every record means those related about money, and those are financial transaction, and those transactions are related and related to the organization you have to be attached. So there is they have to be go through and examine and inspect of the correctness and authenticity of financial statements, and there are the statistical record presented to the management. And the next, ensure the accounting standard and the practice are strictly followed in the organization, and they also facilitate dictation of the error and fraud, because there is the internal audit is made or there is appointed or examined by the internal employees. Then they have to see what type of errors are available in the particular financial statements. Then they have to be dictate about those error and frauds and manipulation of accounts and the misappropriation of accounts. And the next thing is the ensure to be the all the transaction have been carried out under a proper authority and by person authorized for the same in the business. And the review the system of internal check from time to advice of management to improvement of the system. And review the system of internal checks from time to time. And there is the confirm the liabilities have been carried by the organization for legitimate activities. Means you have to be ensure what are the asset, what are the liability of particular organization. And so there is after the efficiency, or there is the after the internal audit, they have to see what is the position of particular organization, means where the particular organization is stand in the market or in a particular uh, 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 in a last year you have to be compared. So audit can be effective only if internal auditor is give wider authority to investigate the transaction, not only from the financial angle but also from the other organization activities. Because there is you have to be see, and if you want to grow in a future or in a coming year, so you have to see what are the weakness of the organization. So there is a also uh, there is a also there is the activities you have to be see, those are related about the organization. And internal auditors should also report directly to the top management, and he must operate independently of accounting and other staff. He must give an independent status as important functionary and part of the management. Because when you have not the internal auditor are not strong, then the other those are employed, those are very powerful, they have to be manipulate the internal auditor. If they are very strong or functionally strong or they are important, then they realize other employees also realize internal auditor is a very important part. Then they no one discuss anything, and the internal auditor everything discussed with the top management, and the top management know very well what happened at the particular time or in the past in related about the organization. So they are very well aware. There is the next thing is internal audit and statutory audit. The internal audit help to the statutory audit to a large extent, because the first thing internal audit is a basically first step to check the financial statements or the financial records. And the statutory audit is a basically by the ICI. And both the internal auditor and the statutory auditor have common interests as far as authenticity of the accounts are concerned, and the soundness of internal audit is relied to the statutory auditor from the detailed checking. The next thing is internal auditor review the operation and perform uh, such function as evaluation, the compliance, verification, the ensure that policies and procedures and rule other types of control of business are be carried out of efficiently. Because when the internal audit is a important part, and internal auditor they have to be checked and all the transactions. So there is the verify and of the different type of policies and the procedures and rules. So, because after internal auditor, who is liable if the misappropriation of accounts, frauds, errors, then internal auditor is responsible for that, because the first step is doing by the internal auditor. And in is helpful to statutory auditor because they know very well about what is the attachment to with the particular transaction, and they have to be matter of examination related about the book of accounts. And there are statutory auditors accept some of the detailed checking made by the internal auditor, because internal auditor is a continuous work, or there is a made by the very well trained organization employed. So they are believe on internal auditor related about if they know anything the internal auditor. Then internal auditor they have to be find the support or attachment with the particular transactions, and they have to be cooperate between the internal auditor and statutory auditor is somewhat limited as statutory auditor has responsibility under the law to various authorities, and internal auditor is responsible only to the management, because those auditors are governed by ICI, Indian Institute of Chartered Account. So there are different type of responsibility, but only internal auditor is responsible only to the top management. So statutory auditor has to be carry out his duties in accordance with the standard accounting and auditing practice and provisions of law which govern the organization before the accepting the checking of accounts and other document carried by internal auditor. The next thing is both the internal and auditor statutory auditor carried out the examiners record documents and the make physical and other verification. These similarities are different in the status, responsibility, approaches, scope of work of internal auditor and statutory auditor. Then you have to be see the difference. Internal auditor is a arrangement within the organization. Statutory auditor is examine the books of account by the external auditor or to report P&L account and balance sheet drawn the recording to provision. And it is also important what is the difference between internal audit and statutory audit. So there are the internal audit is a not compulsory, statutory audit is a compulsory, and internal audit is carried out by the staff appointed by the business enterprises, but statutory audit can be carried out only those are qualified and appointed as per provision of Company Act or other act. So these are the basically main difference related about the next difference is being employee organization internal auditor is answerable, but there is the right duties, responsibility, liability of auditor, the governed by the provision law, and auditor is a independent of management. And the next thing is internal check. Next topic is internal check. Then there are two words. The first is internal means within the organization, or check means you have to check the financial accounts because we have to discuss about to be auditing. So internal check is a system enforced in business under which the recording of business transaction arranged in such manner that the work one staff member will be automatically checked by the others in the course of recording of transaction itself. And there are an arrangement of staff duty where no one person is allowed to carry through the record every aspect of transaction, such without collusion of two or more person or fraud is prevented. So in the internal check, you have to be check of your internal records. And there are the basically essential element of internal check are existence of check of day-to-day transactions, check to be carried out continuously as a part of routine system. Work is divided among the staffs, and the staff is assigned a specified task. The next thing is work over each staff through the independent is compulsory. So there is a basically element. Then there are the different type of objective of internal check. The first is reduce reduce the chance of fraud and errors, that because you have to be check everything, then dictate the fraud and error easily and correct them properly. Then the exercise more pressure among the member of staff. And the next thing is allocate duty and responsibility of every person. Then increase overall efficiency of the member. Then accurate and reliable record of all business transactions. So there are the basically different type of objective of internal check. And how to be good internal check system, then there are no single staff have been absolute control over recording of, because if one person is they have to be control, then they have to manipulate the data. So no single staff shall have the absolute control over the recording of all the aspect of business. The next is same staff shall not be allowed to access of the books. Then each member of the staff should be made responsible for specific work, and all the official and employees holding responsibility towards the cash, securities, stock, and should be encouraged to proceed an annual leave. And the duties of the member of staff should be changed from time to time. Attempt to be introduced mechanical device. Each transaction should be passed through the defined route, and all the books, vouchers, documents should be classified. Proper records to be maintained of incoming. So there are the different type of objective of internal check. And the next thing is internal check as regard cash sales, means they you have to be check all the data. So there is chance of committing frauds in connection with the cash sales are greater, because there are the money transaction related about the cash sales. So it goal of devising efficient and effective system of internal check. And cash sale may be affected in a various way, like as sales as counter, postal sales, and sales under mail order, or sales under the representative. So you have to be see there the one salesman should be appointed to look after one counter independently, and each salesman must be issued a separate cash memo book, because everyone have detailed on cash sales. Then they are liable to own जो भी उसकी कैश सेल बुक होगी उससे रिलेटेड उनका क्या रहेगा बेसिकली, they are responsibility. So each salesman must be maintain a cash sales sheet, and he should be record there the sale affected by him. Summary of cash sales affected in must tally with the cash memo issued by him, and cash memo are issued uh, by the carbon copies, because you have to be attached and all the records with your with the organization or with to be the staff. So there is a discuss proper record of the cash memos, and salesman must not receive cash such as cash memo issued by him. Then all the payment cash memo of salesman must be made by the customer at cash counter. So you have to be definite, or there is a divided in the cash counter and the cash sales. So if there is any cash transaction is related, so there is a must be chance of error will be increased. The next, the sales are to be affected in the following manner. Just a second. And the three how to be, there are the different type of manners you have to be, errors will be decreased. And then the first thing is there is a three copies of cash memo must be issued to the customers. Then customer must be present to the three copies of cash memo to cashier at time of making payment, and the cashier must verify the particular and satisfy himself. Then so there is a different kind of manner. So the cashier receiving payment in the case will be rubber stamp, and there's the different kind of. Then the next is postal sales. Postal sales under the mail order. Then there are include all sales made by the post, and there should be recorded in a separate register to be maintained for the purpose of which sales on, and you have to maintain the number, items number, or the serial number. So if the goods return, then you have to record in the register. Then the total amount of cash received including advance, if any, against the mail order should be entered in the registered in a basically, and the same should be deposit into the bank. The all entries. The next thing is sales by representative and the agent. Then there are uh, those sales are basically made by representative or agent. Then it is the a big practice in a big business house to employ representative and agent to promote sales and collect the amount due to the from debtors. Then the first is representative and the agent should be authorized to issue raw receipt to customer against cash received from them, and however the final receipt should be issued by only head office, because you have to be every control in your representative and agent, then the fraud and the error chances are increased. So the customer should be advised to communicate directly with the head office if they not get final receipt and in the reasonable time. And the representative and agent should be instructed to remit the amount of cash collected by them to head office without any delay. So there is no control in your representative or in your agent hand. And the next thing is representative and the agent must not be allowed under any circumstances to deduct their commissions or any other expenditure from the amount cash collected by them. कि ऐसा नहीं हो कि आपके जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव हैं या जो भी एजेंट्स हैं वो सैलरी जो भी कैश कलेक्ट हो रहा है वहीं से, बिकॉज दे हैव टू बी cash collected through from the customers, they have to be submitted to the head office without any delay. And the bill of commission and the expense should be submitted to the head office, and they, as a matter of routine, head office should be sent the periodical statement of accounts customer with the view to apprise them. There are the basically you have to be see the topic of the sales under the representative or agent. The next thing is internal check as regard purchase. Means if you have to be purchased and by the purchase by your administration, so there is the purchase fraud is connection with the purchase of goods in big businesses as greater, कि आपने जो परचेज किया वो कहाँ से कर रहे हैं, उसका बेसिकली रिप्रेजेंटेटिव कौन है, कितने की वो आई है, बिकॉज देर इज रिलेटेड अबाउट द कैश. It calls the devising efficient and effective control system of internal check. In this connection, one should be familiar with the purchase procedure, should be as under. Then the department requiring the material should be filled purchase requisition, quality, quantity, and of to the purchase. Then purchase department basis of the requisition will send to the head office, and the quotation will be placed on the best vendor and the receive order vendor to sell execute the orders and other receipt of goods if it will be verified reference. So you have to discuss with all things related about to be purchased. So the invoice will be passed for the payment by the senior officer. After the verifying, the terms and condition of supply will be referenced to rate, quality, and other expense detail. And these should be separate purchase department, and there are the purchase order are to be issued by against the indent received from the various department of business. All orders should be placed in the writing, and the order must be there are the quantifiable. All order of purchase should be signed by the purchase manager. All order contain the seal of office. So there are the different points or aspects when you have to be the internal audit on the purchase. The goods received should be inspected by the copy of order, and the goods received are to be examined with the delivery notes and supply invoice of seller, recording quantity, quality, and the rates. And the purchase department should be make the endorsement, and there the inspection and examination of goods received notes, and the endorsement must be made by the purchase manager, and the store department should be acknowledge the receipt of goods and the send to the department all the package incoming goods to be opened only the presence of responsible officials. So the different kind of there are the information how to be control the purchase department through the minimize the errors or frauds or the misappropriation of accounts. The next thing is store officer on verification of correctness of goods received, enter them into the stock register. The next thing is there are the generally a rubber stamp containing certificates, and the next thing is payment of purchase must be only after account department verify the invoice, goods received notes, and purchase order. And the account department should be impress a rubber system on invoices with the past for payment. The separate purchase register to be maintained by the purchase department. So there are the different kind of informations, and there are the ledger clerk should have no access to physical stock register. Then the inter-branch purchase, the intercompany purchase, all the purchase are made by the employee for the personal use to be must be uh, accounted for separately. And there are separate return or outward book to be maintained. If you have to be written about your purchase goods, then the things are to be basically discuss with your upper or senior officers, and you have to maintain a proper register. So the credit note are to be issued for adjusting claim. Then purchase department should be send a copy of credit notes then to the account department. There are the purchase ledger control account to be maintained and perpetual inventory control system, and there are should be adopted to avoid excess quantity and maintain minimum quantity, where the goods are delivered directly to the location or place of work, not controlled by the purchase department. Because the organization when the large, then the purchase department at the location is different, and the purchase requisition department like as the HR or R&D department, sales department are at different place. So you have to be there is all the goods sent at they have to be required of different goods. The next thing is the internal check as regards sales. Where there is very necessary on as regarding to sales, because the sales in also discuss or there is issue with a financial transactions where there is any financial money or the penny or there is the money discussed or there is the related, there is the error of chance misappropriation of accounts are very high. So the organization of sales department depend on the system of selling distribution of goods. Unless the department is organized properly, there are the greater possibility for the supervision of sales and the manipulation of accounts. And goods can also misappropriated. Then, so the sales must be executed against the order received from the customer, and all the incoming orders shall be numbered and filled. The confirmation of order received sent to the customers. Then proper record is to be maintained for the order received, and the order is executed and reviewed. The next thing is the sales shall be authorized by the responsible officials, and after the scrutiny of the order and the assessing of the portion of supply of goods as well as the terms and condition of sales accepted by the customer. The next thing is all the sales records shall be contained in whole, and there are the invoice prepared regarding to there is the sales department related the how much quantity and which rate there are you have to be sell. And there are the separate department deal with the sales and credit sales. In case of credit sales, then separate register should be maintained of customer with the financial standing. In credit sale is also there are scrutiny of the customer order of supply of goods on credit. Then there are periodical statement of outstanding balance due to towards the customer be sent and confirmation obtained from them. There are next thing is regular reminder for payments shall be made to the customer of there are duties. The amount due from the customer shall be written off as a bad unless all the recovery are exhaustive. So there are different kind of internal check on the sales is very important, and there are responsible officials shall be entitled to treat as a debt as bad for the sales invoice check hold no access to the physical stock or the accounting record. The next thing is the credit notes shall be prepared only for ascertaining the fact to dispatch action. And there are if the cash sales are cancelled, then a notice to be given to the dispatch department to stop dispatch of goods. If invoice can be cancelled only by the sales department, there because invoice because there the sale is delivered to the customer at a different place, or it may be at different place, or the depart you have to receive the money out from when you sell your goods at the different place. So there is the invoice is very important part. All the sales invoice must be printed and numbered in a serial order, and the sales ledger shall be maintained by separate clerk, and the periodical statement should be sent to the debtors. The next thing is, in case of credit sale, the regular confirmation should be obtained from the customer regarding to outstanding balance. And the next is the sales ledger control is also important, and sales ledger control in a journal ledger shall be maintained. Credit to employee to allowed only proper authorization from the management. Then there are the separate departments. So there we have to discuss about the internal check as sales. The next thing is internal check as regard as wages payment. So the next thing is internal check as regard of wages payment. In also wages payment, there are the money related, or you have to be payment of the penny to the employees or to the laborers or to the debtors or creditors. So there are the wages payment, and there is also manipulate the accounts, the manipulates. So there is I votes related about the frauds, errors, manipulation, misappropriation. So in a big organization, work regarding maintenance of various type of wages record, computing the amount of wages and the payment of wages right person are of significant importance. It is therefore the necessary to design a proper system of internal check regard wages payment to minimize the danger of fictitious name, error in the wages record, or misappropriation money. So there are the first is workers should be employed only after the written order of the personal officer or appointed authority. The next is separate staff record attendance of worker, control of leave, payment of overtime, disbursement of pay packets. Each staff member shall be responsible to enter relevant information in the wages sheet. The next is wages sets contain column of recording relevant information as payment of wages such as name of employee, designation, then there is a period of wages paid, then rate of pay, amount of basic pay, DNS allowance, and there are the house rent allowance. So there are the basically different kind, or there is a different kind of just a second. Yes. Mm. Means you have to be checked all things related about the wages, as there are the recording of there are the pay scales, then rate of pay, and copy of order relating to increase in a pay, promotion and punishment, and there is a deduction in the wages of amount, prudent fund, then medical grounds. So everything you have to be record. Then the next thing is there are the separate proper, there is a separate job card to be maintained for the recording the work performed by the worker. Then each worker is to be given a pay slip indicating the gross wages and net wages. So you have to know about uh, your basically workers, how much they have to be received the money. Then each separate uh, register to maintain recording the name of worker to be allowed, who may be allowed to work overtime, and no worker shall be allowed to work overtime without prior sanction of the proper authority. Then the next thing is time recording clock shall be installed at the main gate of factory for the recording of the arrival and departure of worker. And the next thing is there are the late arrival of the workers to be entered in the worker to be entered in a separate register. So there the different kind of the systems to be maintained for there to be workers, or the wages to provide for the workers are fair or not fair. Then proper ward arrangements to be maintained for the recording of arrival of worker and time of living in the factory. So you know very well about the particular things, and the rate of each workers to be periodically checked with the reference to the card, and all the circumstances regarding gross wages and the net wages payable after the deduction to be checked by independent person. And in the wages sheet the name of worker, rates of pay, and the period for wages to be shall be entered by one person. So there are the different kind of things we have to be see in the wages sheet. And in the wages sheet there is a basically related about the name of worker, rate of pay, and the period for wages to be paid shall be entered by one person. And the calculation regarding to gross wages payable made by another person, and deduction under the various head shall be made by the third person. The net wages is also checking of the wages sheet. And if the wages are to be basis on the piece wages and the different on like as a piece wages, then actual work done by each worker must be maintained on a job card. So the wage sheet shall be prepared as so one copy shall be the paymaster, second copy to account sanction, and the last is to be retained by the job prepared. Internal check system and auditor. Then internal check, when the auditor you have to be see the auditor is given the auditing of the particular account, then you have to see the auditor they have to be uh, some expression about the auditing or the review of the auditing or inspection. So you have to check the soundness system of internal check, and they it will put on the operation in the organization are matter of a great importance for the auditor. In case system of internal check is effective, when the work of external audit become quite easy, it's also relieved of the detail. We have already discussed about it. Then there are the difference between internal check and internal control. Then internal check is a basically uh, allocation of responsibility, division of work, but internal control is a system of control established uh, or by the management in order to carry on business in a order or efficient manner. Then the next is internal check is a internal control, but internal control is record of internal check and internal audit. And internal check is a basically arrangements of bookkeeping and clerical duties, and it include the essence of internal check and internal audit. So there are the different kind of difference between internal check and internal audit. Audit in respect of computer environment, EDP, means there are uh, the principal object shall be audit is to ensure the account on which auditor is reporting show a true and fair view of state of affair given date, the results. Then you have to be evaluate the account system of accounting and the internal control to ascertain whether the appropriate for the business and properly record of all transactions. Then making of such tests and enquiries the considered necessary determine. The next is examination of accounts in order to verify. So there are the different type of. The next thing is we have to discuss there are the internal control. Internal control the basically is a control of basic human requirement and existed throughout the age in the different phase. There are the in control accepted device of optimum utilization and maximize the effectiveness of the resource and opportunity for maximize of profit, because you have to decrease the normal loss, abnormal loss, spoilage, wastage, and other things. Then increase the number of goods through the particular raw material. So the decrease of the price cost or per unit cost, and all the operation of a business are carried on with the help of human agent and equipment. Both factors need supervision so that take assigned to them properly carried out and avoidable waste and the losses do not occur. The next thing is internal control is required by the sole proprietor of a small business is not identical with required of large industrial organization. So small traders have a grocery shop hardly need more than one or two assistant. He decide to work done by assistant. So there are the basically internal control for a small organization, and it observed there is a entirely centralized with the owner and there is no significant delegation of duties. However, business grow in size soon reach a stage where the owner can be longer keep himself intimately informed about the detailed operation of business. So there are a internal control, the review of internal control. Then there are the you have to see the narrative record, checklist, questionnaire, flow charts, and there are narrative recording. You have to comprehend the operation quite difficult, identify weakness or gap in the system, inappropriate charge arising account in the reshuffling of manpower. Then regarding to checklist related about the tender code, placing order, purchase made on the basis of return order, purchase order from the standardized, purchase order from the pre-numbered. Then stocks are like as custody of work, receipt of work, inspection of stock, purchase of stock. Then internal control questionnaire you have to be discuss with there is the yes or no answer or there is the multiple answers, then flow charts related about the graphical representation of each part of the company system, internal control. Then what is the advantage? There is a basically advantage is a auditor rely on the internal control, the duty safeguard assist of a company is a primarily that the management and the auditor is entitled rely upon safeguard and internal control instituted by management, although he will of course take into account of deficiency he may find in team drafting his program. And audit assurance, audit planning, there is a basically whether the review of internal control, then whether error and fraud are likely to be located in orderly course of the operation of the business, then whether adequate internal control system use, there are the operation operating as planned by the management, and whether effective internal audit department is operating and administrative control are being on his work. So there are the different aspects of internal control. Then there are the next thing is auditing, planning, and the program. Then auditors' duty related about the management responsibility necessary for the evolution. Then assurance. Then there are the review. Then procedure. Then test checking. Then reporting. There is a different of aspects of internal control. So there are the review related about internal control, then inherent limitation. The management considers the control be cost effective. Then there are the fact most control do not tend to be directed at transaction at unusual nature, then potential of human error. So there are the different type of limitations related about the internal check. Then internal controls sample for the sales as a debtor and purchase creditor wages and salary. So the different document like as invoice, delivery challans should be serially numbered and missing document are investigated. And there are the delivery challans should be verified by the customer purchase order before dispatch and the serially filled. Then the next thing is just a second. Then there are the delivery challans to be verified by the customer purchase order before disperse the serially filled. And the next is the customary acknowledgement for goods dispatch must be obtained and invoice prepared for the all deliveries are to be sent to the customer within a reasonable time. Then the next is price on invoice must be as per standard price list. And the next thing is price and there is a basically internal check. Uh, there is a uh, invoice related about the delivery sent to customer within a particular reasonable time. Then price of the invoice must be standardized price list, and the proper record of or returned goods should be made and credit note to be duly authorized and the verified. The next thing is adequate record must be maintained for the parts deliveries. And the next thing is the listing the sales ledger balance and must be regularly balanced with the control account. And there are the different kind of such things. There are checks, record of receipts and duties of personal responsible, the cash taking, or there are the listing of sales ledger and the like as statement shall be regularly sent and the reconciliation with the customer balance prepared at regular interval. Credit limits shall be checked before the order are accepted. So the different kind of things are to be, and the tenders should be invited before placing order. Purchase order to be pre-numbered and serially controlled, and goods receiving department should be adequately staffed to be inspect. Goods received notes to be pre-numbered and serially controlled. So there are the different type of duties like as the first of all the preparing the goods receiving notes, recording goods received on the stock record, and the custody and authorized issue of notes, verification of goods and received notes with the invoice. So that there are the different kind of internal checks when you have to see, uh, and there are the distinguish between internal check and internal control. So internal check means arrangement of work different employee in such manner. But internal control hold the system of controlled financially otherwise established by the management in order to carry business of a company or orderly manner, safeguard it is asset or secure as far as possible the accuracy and reliability of its record. And it is internal check in which going on continuous process, but internal control is wider term. It include internal check and internal audit, and there is applicable to both small and large, but the internal control is more applicable to the large organization where the more or many departments. The next thing is reliably internal check is cheaper, but internal control is a setting up to internal control system costly and timely consuming. And the next thing is about the internal check or the next other after internal test check or internal checks. So test check means you have to be check about the particular goods and services or the financial statements. But internal check is a basically you have to check everything, and it stand for the method standing instead of a complete examination of all the transactions record in the books of account. Only some of goods transaction are selected and verified, but internal check you have to all things. It refers to system bookkeeping and the arrangement of staff duties in arrangement in such manner shall no one person can be completely carry through a transaction and record every aspect thereof. The next thing is there are in a test check, it is a audit procedure, but in internal check is a serious procedure laid down by the management. And there is the main objective of test check is you have to see the things or the goods and service are good or not. But internal check is the facilitate management function. There is the test check main objective is purpose to be laid or authority to check and draw the conclusion about the voluminized transaction. And the next thing is there is the fraud and error. It helps to auditor to unearth the fraud and error without checking all the transactions, and it institutes the prevent frauds and errors. Then management control. The next thing is internal audit. We have discussed already internal audit. Then there is the basic principles where the internal audit department should have be independent status related to organization. We have already discussed this about. The next thing is internal audit versus external audit. We have already discussed it. There is differences. Internal audit are not a specific check, but there are the there are internal check and internal audit, but there is specifically done check all the record properly maintained. We have already discussed it. So we move to the next topic. There are the vouching. And the vouching means the examination of the documentary evidence in support to the entries of established arithmetic accuracy. In there are the basically in the vouching you have to be discuss about the particular things those arithmetic accuracy, and you have to see the documentary evidence or you have to examine the documentary evidence or support to the particular entries. So when the auditors check the entries for some documents is called vouching. It is also important topic. Vouching is a acid test of audit because the some documents checked by the auditors, then it and they have to be examined. A test of the truth of the transaction record in the book of account in act of examine the documentary evidence in order to ascertain the accuracy and the authenticity of the entries in the books of account. And the next thing is, according to different type of authors, they have to vouching consist of the comparing entries in the book of account with documentary evidence in the support. And according to Jessup Lanster, it often throughout the vouching consists of the mere examination of the vouchers or documentary evidence with the book of entries, however, quite wrong. So vouchers basically any document vouchers means any documentary evidence or supporting the entries in the record is termed as vouchers. So any document which support in entry of accounts established in the arithmetical accuracy called vouchers. Like as example, a bill, a receipt, a invoice, goods issue note, salaried wages sheet, goods outward register, store record. So everything the basically example of voucher. The next thing is importance of vouching. Ensure there are genuineness of the transaction because you have to see the vouchers are fair or not fair, and you have to find some error. So ensure there are the genuineness of the transaction, unable to know the transaction, then there are the basically supporting document of particular transaction. If there are, if you don't know about how to happen and what is happening in the particular transaction, then you have to check of the different kind of vouchers or supporting documents. So unable to know the particular transaction, then help to relevance of the transactions, the facilitate proper allocating capital and revenue and expenditure, and dictate the fraud and error, and decide the authenticity of transaction, and ensure the proper accounting, the compliance with the law, ensure proper disclosure. So there are the different type of importance of you when you have to see or just check about the vouchers. And the next thing is there are the special consideration to be borne in the mind by the auditor in the course of vouching related कि भाई जो भी आपका वाउचर्स है, अब वाउचर्स में जो भी आप चेक करेंगे कि ये कब का वाउचर है, द डेट ऑफ वाउचर, द नेम ऑफ द पार्टी, टिक एंड ऑडिट द रबर स्टैम्प, authorization of the authorized person, revenue stamp, transaction relate to the business, revenue and capital, amount in the word and figure, account had no assistance of member, and note to accept and the missing vouchers. So there are the consideration about when in mind by the auditor course of vouching. Missing vouchers, importance of the document or important document, vouching of cash transaction, proper filling, signature of payee, nature of payment, nothing in the audit notebook, alteration, vouchers control number. Then the next thing is why there is need of vouching. So the different kind of objective of vouching. The first thing is ensure that all the transactions are properly recorded in the book of account. Then you have to see the proper evidence support of all the entries of transaction. The next thing is there are to make the fraudulent transaction are not recorded in the book of account. The next thing is to see all the transactions related to business are recorded in the book of account, and that all the transactions are properly authenticated by a responsible person. So there is a different kind of vouching, objective of vouching, and you have to see then there are the mainly pressure on the those are maintained account statement. They have to maintain all the vouchers with the proper date. So the proper evidence when you have to need or anyone need related about, then you have to see and go through with the all the vouchers. So the end there are the minimization of fraud and error will be very low. And the next thing is the all the business transactions are recorded properly and systematically, and there are the proper authenticated by a financial or there is accountant. So auditing techniques, there are the different type of auditing technique. So auditing technique are working tool used to be identification and examine evidence which have been traced by the audit procedure. Means in the your mainly auditor work is basically identify the errors or the mistakes or the misrepresentation or the misappropriation in your account. So there are the different kind of, they have to see all the transactions or they go through with the random. So and there are the dictionary meaning of the technique is the method or performance or execution or procedure. So there are the different kind of the first thing is uh, the following technique, the all inclusive list, and then auditing process way of auditing technique. Then there are procedure of different kind of engagements, and the next thing is the principal procedure of auditing. What type of principles related about the auditing? Then there are the difficult to prepare judgment or tempering the experience remain his basis of determination of the type extent of audit procedure. So following may be cited as principal audit procedure. So first is a review. Just a second. And the next thing is review, and there is the testing of evaluate the internal accounting control and relating to the inventories, relating to the purchase, payroll, sales of invoice preparation, stock of valuation, depreciation. So there are the different kind of things you have to be see and check in your vouching. Then the inspecting, counting, and the calculating different asset relating to the cash or to the stock or to the investment plants, equipment, furnitures, or determine the inventory is calculated properly at the lower cost or market price. So there are the different kind of things related to be in the vouching. You have to proof of accuracy, reconcile, comparing, and confirming the sales invoice may be recording with the total charges to the customers, then observation or inquiry about any excess or slow moving or obsolete. And there are the accounting of the pre-numbered and the verification as evidence. Then the next thing is regarding to test checking, means you have to check about every transaction, carry out detailed check of each and every transaction of a large business shall be time consuming for the auditor. In the auditing, basically every single copy note usually checked by the auditor. Then what is usually done in a practice is that a representative number of entries of each class are selected and checked. If they are found correct, the remaining entries are to be taken to be correct, then it is known as test checking. So you have to be see every details or every transactions, and they have to be checked, and those organizations are satisfactory. Internal check system is existence. Auditors need not to carry out detailed carrying may be adopted test checking. They the same thing like as the internal check and is a system of sampling employed by the auditors for the purpose of reduce the volume of detail checking involved in the audit. And test checking is a basically versus statistical sampling. The selection item purpose to be done into judgment and statistical sampling. There are the judgment methods. So precaution to be taken. The entries to be select in the test checking must be representative of all the transaction, and the selection of the item should be random. It cannot be adopted in the case of vouching the casebook. Clients staff should not come to know the entry selected for the test checking, and the period selected of test checking should differ from book to book or year to year. He should not adopt the test checking because the test checking is randomly, and law required through the audit. The number of the entries of the first and last month of the must be checked thoroughly, and tests should be devised by the sizable portion of work done by each employee is checked. And the control account or impersonal loss should not be subject to test checking. Auditors should select the test independently without regard suggestion of the member of client staff. So it is a basically test checking, and the advantage of test check, the volume of work is considerably reduced because you don't check each and every transaction, and there is saving in terms of time and cost and energy, and extra available can be utilized for the concentrating of areas and considerable importance. If done carefully, then test checking can be quite effective. And disadvantage, you don't know what happened other than test checking goods and services, then auditor always under fear whether he has missed out certain important items. That error have been remained under undetected while the test checking. So client staff is aware, the auditor resort to the test checking. Then there is a what is the auditor liability in test checking? If any error are found, then the account that auditor cannot take the shield against the perfect conducted the test check, because you don't know or what happened or what will happen in the test checking, because the test checking is a randomly. The auditor should be specifically very careful select items for the test check and ensure all that account a true and fair or profit and loss in case of P&L account and state of affair. And there are the surprise check. Surprise check avoid the audit procedure. Then you have to surprise check involve visit by the auditor to the client office or the factory without any prior intimates. So it is a also type of the test check, but in surprise check you don't want to be intimate to the officers or management, and without intimation you come to at particular office then check, and the element of surprise in both the time and scope, and there during basically check selected without any prior notice of client staff and use of ticks. There are the control on the work done by the auditors. Then auditing in depth. Next is auditing in depth means auditing is a basically examination or the inspection of the frauds and the misappropriation accounts, misrepresentation in accounts. So you have to check, and the examination of the system is applied the within a business entitled the tracing of certain transactions from origin to their conclusion, investigation at the stage, the record created and their authorization. And audit is that does not mean 100% checking, but you have to check the all things, and there is a beginning of the end. It use along with the test checking. There is some examples. Then there is related what is the progress. Then uh, the next thing is audit income. Audit income is basically audit of income. There are the cash sales. The cash sale register should be fully checked with the carbon copy. Then there are the summer of daily cash should be checked, and auditor must be careful about the cash memo, and certain representative should be subject of vouching, salesman summary, then gatekeeper summary, cashier summary should be compared, and date of cash sales, bills and date receipts, records, cash books must be same. If in the date differ, the some should be inquired into where the cash sales are bills are cancelled. All the copies included in the original copy duly cancelled should be kept in record. And the sales on approval, there are the first is sales or return day book, you have to be maintained, and the order book and confirmation is also book maintained, sales register, stock register and statement. Then consignment, related about the consignment agreement, commissionment and agreement or outward book, then stock register, account sales, and there are the different type of forms you have to be maintained. Then sales return, we have already discussed about it. Sales return, you have to be maintained proper book and inform to the sales office and the dispatch account, and the return with the credit note and send to customers, and all the entries related about the sales return is must be maintained in the gatekeeper record. And so there are the different, and the recovery of bad debt to be right of ascertain the trial balance, the amount under the consideration, it should be taken to the P&L account. Then the entry, journal entry passed as the same, and the authorization. So there is the rental receipt. If something is on the rent, then you have to maintain of the things, the check and the nature of agreement to know the condition where the asset is given on rent. So the original document check the rate, period and mode of payment, cash or check, and check the outstanding rent of the last year, find out of which receipts or for last year how much rest will still outstanding. Then check the entries in cash or pay slips. Then the next thing is there are the check outstanding rent at the end of year, interest and dividend received. The next thing is when you have to be receive, there are the interest and dividend, then you have to maintain in the proper account or in P&L account. Like as if you have to receive the interest or dividend of last year or particular year, then you have to maintain the first check income state in the current year profit and P&L account. Then a certain amount is received on a last year, or find out the outstanding balance receivable. Then cash book vouchers is entries for income received. Then check the cash detected source, the calculation and verify effect on the ledger. So there are the different kind of entries or accounts maintained related to interest and dividend received amount. Then there are the royalty received. In the royalty received, the same thing in the interest or dividend. If the royalty received, on which items you have to be received the royalty, you have to be mentioned in. Then there is like as we have to in the financial account, if the royalty received is a part of income or expenditure, or there is a part of there is a P&L account, then you have to maintain all the things about it and examine the important provision related and the condition of the payment of royalty. The same thing is you have to see on your screen the rate of royalty, mode of calculation, due dates should be noted, and periodical statement received from the public source. So the next thing is audit of expenditure purchase. Then there are the purchase return. If you have to be purchased, then like as in post accounting, there are the something like as the purchase return or the sales return, or we have to discuss in the old in financial accounting. There are the something is sales return or purchase return. Then what is the treatment of the purchase return. So the audit of expenditure purchase is the first of all there the purchase return. In the purchase return, the goods are of the consignment like as defective or poor quality, then goods sometimes are returned to the supplier on and the account is debited. And there is a debit is raised as a purchase return book or there is the debit note. So if you are like us know about in tally, then in the vouchers, then in vouchers there are the different vouchers or separate voucher of purchase return or sales return are the debit note or credit note. So there is the debit note is related to the purchase return and issue credit note indicating the acceptance of the debit. So on the receipt, it is attached to the debit note, and all the entries should be verified by the reference, the record of goods, outward books, or store record. So the first thing is audit of expenditure report. There is the purchase return. Then there are the like a salary or wages. Then salary wages you have to be payment, and the payment account of salary and wages need to be vouched carefully since the amount are were either not due to or excess in those of due may be have been filled by the client, and the evidence in support such payment generally is internal. So there are the appointment or promotion and transfer or discharge of employee, then recording of attendance of worker, arrangement for preparation, sanction disbursement of wages, arrangement for the disbursement, custody of the wages record. So there are the different type of expenditure related to the auditor. They have to be checked about the vouchers. So like there the rent of rental agreement, pen payment voucher, TDS file, journal ledger, financial statements, and there the insurance is related out the insurance policy, then the cover note, payment of voucher, staff insurance or policy record, journal ledger or financial statements. Then there are the document of internal control is manual, bills and statement of account, deposit receipt, payment voucher, personal expenses. So everything there is the like a document is petty cash book, dispatch register, acknowledgement, agreement with the courier company, and what is the petty cash expense. Petty cash expense is basically those are generally expense in a particular organization, and they have to be handled or maintained. There is the proper ledger book, and the petty cash expense is who handle petty cash, and there are the limit of disbursement through the petty cash note of the rest system. So they regularly checked or responsible examine those petty cash or based on the vouchers. So there are the different type of petty cash expense also. Then there are the traveling and commission advertisement. In things there are the traveling commission advertisement, because when there are the salesmen, they have to be travel from one place to another, then company provide there is the traveling commission or there the related about the advertisement, then demand of the all item expense incurred except which are capable of independent verification as regard traveling expense is claimed as by the director. The auditor should be satisfied himself these were incurred by the interest of these, and the that director were entitled to receive the amount from the business. So the like as there are the performa, the name, then designation of the person, then there are the particular of journey, then amount of railway or airfare. Then next is amount of boarding and lodging, the expense and other expense. So there are the basically are traveling expenses. And the next thing is uh, the next chapter is the verification and the valuation of assets and liability. How to be verified and how to be evaluate of particular things. Those are related about the auditing, meaning of there is a verification related about the assets liabilities. So you have to be seen in the auditing there is the particular things is right or wrong. So according to there is the author, there is it implies an inquiry into the value, ownership, title, existence, possession, and the presence of any charge on assets. So verification is basically process by which auditor satisfy himself about the accuracy of the assets and liability appearing in the balance sheet and by the inspection of the documentary evidence available. And verification means proving the truth and confirmation of assets and liability appearing in the balance sheet. And the verification include the existence of the assets, legal ownership and possession of the assets, ascertaining that the asset is free from any charge, and correct valuation. So you have to be verify everything. Those are related about the organization, related about the assets, related about the ownership, possession of assets, and there are the asset correct valuation. So you have to be like as there is you have to check the valuation is right or wrong. So the next thing is there is the statement of auditing practice issued by ICI. Then auditor object is regard of assets is generally to satisfy that they exist, they belong to the client and the possession. And the next thing is not subject to undisclosed, or there is the balance sheet proper amount and the record in the. Then the point to be considered regarding to existence, possession, ownership, charge or lien, then record audit report event after the balance sheet. Then scope of verification, what type of scopes to the auditing. Then there are the assets were existing on the date of the balance sheet. Then assets have been acquired for the purpose of balance or only business, or the assets have been acquired under the proper authority and the right ownership of the asset vested in the organization. Assets were free from any charge and the assets were properly valued and disclosed. An objective of verification, so you have to be correct valuation of assets and liability. The next thing is regarding to balance sheet. There is exhibit of a true and fair view of state affair of the business, and also find out the ownership and title of asset, find out whether assets were in existence, and detect fraud and error if any. Then there is also find out and educate the internal or control regarding acquisition and utilization of disposal of assets. Then there are the verify and arithmetic accuracy of accounts. Then ensure assets have been recorded properly. So there is the main basically objective of verification to be check the those financial statements are right or not right. Then you have to see the assets are existence or not existence, and who is the basically owner or title of the particular assets, and what is the existence, and you have to detect what is the fraud and error in the particular organization, and find out the educate internal control. So there's a different kind of objective. And what is the advantage of verification? So there are the different kind of verification advantage. There are the first thing, there are to be accounts avoid manipulation, because they know very if the accounts are verified by the different kind of person, or those are appointed or those are qualified persons, so you have to be avoid the manipulation of accounts. Then the next thing is guard against the improper use of assets, means the things are to be checked, what type of improper use of assets they have to be guard, and there is a sealed and the proper recording and valuation of assets, exhibitory and fair view of asset affair of the company. And there are the different techniques. The first technique is inspection, observation, and confirmation. First of all, you have to be inspect about the physical inspection of assets, company cash books, physical inventory, or inspection of shares certificate, document. The next is observation. Observation in the auditor may observe or witness the inspection of assets done by other, or confirmation. Confirmation. Confirmation, it means the obtaining written evidence from the outside parties regarding to exit. So, a verification of assets, how to be verify the assets, then you have to signify the physical examination of classes of assets regarding to certain transaction, sometime verification, and there is accuracy or genuineness of the transaction, where verification go to inquire into the value, ownership, existence, and possession of assets, and also to be confirmed they are free from the mortgage or charge. The fact of the presence any entry regarding acquisition of assets does not prove any particular assets actually exist on the balance sheet, rather than there are the things. So, in like as verification involved inquiry the value placed on assets, examination of ownership, title deeds of asset, physical inspection of tangible assets, confirmation regarding to charging charge of assets, ensuring the assets are disclosed and classified the presented in according recognized accounting policy and legal requirement. So the different kind of verification of assets and valuation of the assets. Valuation means there is what is the value at present time of particular assets. So you have to be determine the fair value of assets show in the balance sheet on the basis of gap, means general accepted accounting principle. And there are the valuation of assets is very important, because you have to see the overstatement and understatement of the value of assets in the balance sheet, and you have to be check the value of assets primarily because the auditor is required to verify the value ascertained is fair or not. For this, he may uh, rely on the technique certificate issued by the expert. So there is check of the different type of like as there are the fixed assets, then current assets, floating assets, wasting assets, tangible assets, fictitious assets. Then you know very well. So we don't waste time on what is the fixed assets, current assets, then wasting assets means they have to be lose their value gradually upon their use, like mines and query, or you have to be see there is the usefulness day by day will be decrease. So they are the wasting assets. Then intangible assets, you know very well. The fictitious assets means the certain the lump sum expense given to benefit for more than 2 year incurred or return of over a period time. And the method of valuation, the first is the going concern. The method is basically reduced by the depreciation provided. Then there is the market value. In market, what is the value? Then scrap value means after the scrap, what is the amount or assets are useless for the enterprise may sold or scrap in the market. Then replacement value. Then realized value, what is the realized in the market if asset is sold in the market. Then auditor position regarding to valuation of assets, there is a like as meaning of verification and valuation. There, the first thing is uh, verification means establish of existence, ownership, and acquisition of assets. Where is the valuation certify the correctness of the value of assets and liability. Time verification is end of the year. Valuation is done during the year, and personal verification is done by the auditor. Valuation is done by the proprietor himself. Evidence, there is the title deeds, receipts, payment, constitute documentary evidence for the verification as certificate given by proprietor and by the evidence for the valuation. Verification on assets, there are the cash in hand at the bank, then cash in hand, then you have to see there are the different type of special care, then cash should be checked, then there is a one figure of cash figure, there are different kind of examples also. So cash in the transit means remit in refer to there the cash sent by the branch or debtor agent head office, but physically cash is not yet received. Then such remittance in transit to be verified, subsequent period, then reconciliation of head office or branch if amount is reported in bank payslip, and then something are the petty cash. We have already discussed about the petty cash. Then bank balance. Bank balance is in the bank passbook compare with the bank balance so by the bank column in the cash book. Then you have to the reconciliation statement with the bank statement. You have to check everything related to the bank balance and receipts, bank current account and other accounts. And the next is bills receivable. Bank receivable should be examined. The bills receivable with the bills receivable not matured. So, but in hand, the date of the balance sheet and when they any bill are in process of collection in detail of the same have to be verified with the bank certificates. If the bank bill receivable in hands are many, then auditor make a list of bills. So there are the different type of bills receivables, and you have to be loan in advance. Loan in advance, there are many different type of. So loan against the security of land and building, loan against the security of goods, loan against the security of stock and shares, loan against there the security of insurance policy. Then there are the loan against the personal security of the uh, borrowers. So there are the different kind of verify the object clause of the memorandum provide for the granting of such loans, examine the loan, examination of scrutiny lodged, and he should be ascertain whether any loan is doubtful of recovery. And the next is loan against the scrutiny of land and building. So auditor examine the mortgage deed if the copy has to be properly executed and registered in favor of the client. And the auditor has to examine the title deed deposited with the mortgage deed. And the next thing is the auditor, if required, has to examine valuer certificate in order of ascertain. So the loan against the scrutiny of goods in there is the auditor has to be examined the nature of goods and the confirm the goods are really belonging to the borrower. He should see the whether loan is granted against railway receipt, lorry receipt, or dock warrant, or the godown keeper receipt. In case of there are stored in the godown, then he has to see the rent of godown paid to fill. So the next thing is loan against the scrutiny, security of stock and shares. Then their call for statement of stock and shares are given as a security and confirm on the fully paid up. And there are the loan against the of insurance policy. When the policy has completed at least 2 years, then auditor should confirm the premium have been properly paid and policies post to be examined latest premium receipts. Auditor should ascertain that due notice of assignment have been given to insurance company, then loan against personal security of the borrower, then sundry debtors. So what is the sundry debtor? Then sundry debtors are amount recoverable from the customer and uh, applied for the verification of the book debts or sundry debts after receiving of schedule list of the client direct confirmation of balance from the debtors by sending year end of scrutiny of ledgers. So there are the different kind of loans you have to be provided. And there the next thing is patent and trademark. And then we know very well about the patent and trademark. Then there is the ownership of right is verified by inspection of certificate issued for the grant of patent by the prescribed authority. So it is a basically patent or trademark about your things. The next is it has been purchased and agreement surrendering. It is in favor of client should be examined. If the number of patent held by the client obtain the scheduling given full details, therefore verify reference to register and maintained by the client. The next thing there is a copyrights and copyrights related about the auditor should be examined written agreement of assignment along with royalty paid to author for such copyright. Then there the assignment are properly registered. Then if the client is the owner of many copyright, then auditor should ask the client to prepare a schedule of copyright and get detailed information to confirm the same is shown in the balance sheet. And the next thing is related about the copyright. Regarding value of copyright is to be the considered or there is remembered the asset as no value of the long run. Hence, their value is determined on the revaluation basis of period of copyright. Then know-how. Know-how means the basically know-how is a record in the books only if have been paid for it. If it is developed in the house, it cannot be capitalized. Auditor should keep in the mind while every verifying know-how. And there are the investment. We have already discussed about the investment. Investment may be share certificate, government, bond certificate, government loan, securities, certificate, debenture certificate, etc. So you have to be verify regarding to schedule of investment in beginning in the audit period. Then there are the add and abolish purchase made during the period, then balance and schedule and compare the balance with the journal and ledger balance sheet. Then check the market value of investment. Also inspect the certificate and security of physical on the balance sheet. Then compare the income received and amount due. Then confirm the uncalled liability. Then see adequate provision is made. Then there are the investment is subsidiary. So you have to see everything related about investment. Then the next is leasehold property. The next thing is there are the leasehold property on the right to use property is granted for obtaining number of years, and at the expiry the period of lease the right to go back to original leisure. So various steps are involved related about the verification of the leasehold rights are stated below. And in there are the basically uh, C. Inspect the lease agreement, ascertain the amount of premium paid for lease, other terms and conditions, and maintenance, insurance. And C. The lease is properly registered with the register. And you have think everything you have to discuss about leasehold. And there are the next thing is other than there is the goodwill, and the goodwill is also most important, where the goodwill is company has purchased and acquired a running business and have paid for its amount. Access the book value and net assets. Access is called is goodwill, because goodwill is a basically there is the market value of your uh, organization, and it can be verified by the vendor agreement, and the auditor has to be see whether this is there is a specific sum which is paid, or whether it is excess of price paid over a tangible assets, and that it is properly recorded. And when the company has return of the value of all assets on the revaluation and raise a goodwill account in the books, and is also he has to be excess is credited to the capital reserve or revaluation reserve, and no dividend is being declared. The next thing is disclosure is requirement. Sometime goodwill is right of earlier may be brought back to the good account to adjust debit balance of P&L account. The next thing is there is the plant and machinery. So we have already know about there is a part of fixed assets showing full particular including cost, location, depreciation, the detail of purchase, expense, capitalize, and therefore auditors should ask about the register maintained by the client and see all the items of plant and machinery are recorded properly and full give details. As per provision, there are the verification some section, all the assets are to be required to be physically there are verified by the management, and auditors should inquiry about the physical verification of plant and machinery. So there are the different type of invoice related about. And the next thing is there are the furniture and fixtures. We have already know about it is a also part of fixed assets, and the auditor have to be check the proper record showing the quantitative detail of furniture and fixture owned by the client is maintained. Then auditors see that all the expense incidental to purchase of furniture fixture is capitalized along with purchase price, and there are the different thing auditor has to be inquiry furniture and fixture have been properly insured or not. So you have to be checked everything is related about the furniture and fixture. And the next thing is the freehold property, and freehold property is basically land and building. Land and building you have to examine the title deed of property owned by the client and confirm the same is freehold. If the property has been purchased during the year, then auditor has been examined correspondence with the broker solicitor in details. And the next thing is after there is the motor car, you know very well motor car is also part of uh, there is the fixed assets. So the motor car, the proper record is made or available, and auditor should be inspect. Then in respect of motor vehicle mileage or usage method is better, because time of total mileage is particular vehicle will be given to be ascertained without much difficulty, and mileage in a particular so you have to be discussed about the mileage, number of weight car is utilized, and auditor should examine the registration book to see whether description agree with the details given by the client. And many times there are the vehicle are purchased by the client then or for the purpose of employee, so who pays certain sum of money every month from the salary. So you have to see everything about details examine related about the motor car. Then the next thing is loose and tools, pattern dies. So there are the also their verification and valuation of such assets. The first is duration of usefulness. Then auditor should the list of small tools, dies and molds, and then regards of valuation of such small tools. And these types of assets appear either low. Then after it is the assets acquired on the hire purchase agreement, then there are you have to check the verify the minute of book of board of meeting, then examine hire purchase agreement, then ensure installment due to paid, then there are the depreciation is charged on the cash price of the assets, then amount due to his hire vendor, then purchase, and the next thing is livestock, how much entry of regarding to livestock and compare with the ledger and financial statement. Then it is also book value in respect of animals which are dead and not useful, which should be write off. The next thing is store and spare parts. Store and spare parts as basically there is assets and there is consist of material which mean for the consumption in the business, not for resale, and there is clearly shown in the balance sheet. An auditor should be obtained as a inventory of store. Then remember that store consumed are debited and manufactured amount. There is the next thing is contingent assets. We have know about the contingent assets and contingent liability. So there is the different type of example option to apply of shares in another country on favorable, then refund of octroi paid for goods sent to the later, then uncalled share capitals. So there and the remit in the transit. Remit in transit means there is the in a transaction or remit in a transit will be arise whether the head office or branch, there is head office send cash for a meeting day to day expense. If that there is probably in the last week, then you have to cash might have been sent by the head office but not received, means we have to cash in transits goods and to GSTB by GSTB goods return to head office. You discuss in the financial account or in the chapter of branch accounting. So the word is remittance in transaction is provided by the head office. So auditor will be discuss or they have to verify the items auditor called by the bank statement. And there are some miscellaneous expenses like as there are the primary expenses, commission or brokerage, then discount allowed and interest paid of capital development and other. Then the next is primary expense which are incurred or creating or incorporating company. Then auditors should check the prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus, the contract with promoter, board of director. So there are the different kind of next thing is there are the commission or brokerage on issue of share or debentures, such like as there are commissions should be allowed by article of association. The next thing is rate of commission should be not exceed by the 5%. So there are the different kind of commissions, and the next is discount allowed on the issue of shares or debentures. So auditors should also verify things such as discount is approved by ordinary resolution in general meeting as well as authorized. Then there are the return rate of discount cannot be exceed, then such of shares cannot be issued on 1 year. Then prospectus discount on issue of share can be write off share of premium account under the section 78. So the next thing is the payment of interest or out of capital. Then auditor should there is also verify related about the payment on the interest of capital. There are the interest is allowed when the construction work is started by company cannot be completed for some year, then you have to be provide for the payment of plant and machinery. Such interest should be authorized by article of association or by special resolution. And there are rate of interest cannot be exceed 4% per annum. Actual payment of interest should be checked with entries in the bank. So there are the different kind of the next thing is development of other expenditure, and there are the development of other expenditure in the auditor should also verify the board of director approval for such expenditure. Receipt should be obtained from the person who and payment is made, then deferred expenditure. So there are the different type of expenditure is also, but these all are approved by the board of director. So auditor, they have to be examine these development and other expenditure. The next thing is there are the auditor is a not a valuer. There is a uh, discuss related. There is a fair. We have to be valuation of assets means determine the fair value of assets on the date of balance sheet. But there is verifying the value of assets is an important part of auditor duty. So it the asset are belong to proprietor, but basic duty to see the value of assets is determined on the basis of gap or market value. So auditor is full and fair value and need not himself value the asset, but he has just to see whether the value have to be placed are true, correct or fair. There is a basically duty of the auditor to examine the value of the assets fair, correct and true. An auditor not supposed to have special technique knowledge in respect of valuation of assets, but he should always try to examine the value of assets himself with the help of supporting evidence available with the company. He has also depend on many time upon the valuation of by the director, partner, and proprietor of the organization. So intimately connected with the value because the duly auditor has to decide the value of assets himself. He has to see whether value decide upon is correct, fair or true. And the verification of liability, then there are the verification of liability inquiry into nature, extent and existence of liability. It involve ensuring the following: the liability have been clearly uh, stated on the liability side, then liability retained to the business itself, then are correct and authorized, and show in the balance sheet at the actual figure. And so there are the some illustrations related about the share capital, then related about there are the different kind of, if not there are the different kind of reserve and surplus, and so there are the loans. So there are the different kind of illustration we have to be discussed already. And uh, provision for taxation, employee deposits, and the reserve for bad debts, and there are the bills payable, then there are the proposed dividend, then there are things to be basically we discuss outstanding expense and bank overdraft and debentures. So there are the different type of illustration. And there are you have to be discuss the difference in the vouching and verification. Then there the examine vouchers is known as vouching. Vouchers is basically documentary evidence, but verification is explained as establish the truth or securing some kind of confirmation. And vouching involve the establish the arithmetical accuracy, but verification goes to beyond vouching, seeking established asset state balance sheet. Then there are the it no it done during the whole year vouching and it at the end of year verification. Certificate correctness of the record and it certificate correctness of the asset and liability. And it done by the junior staff, but the verification is done by the auditor and himself assigned by the senior. Then there are some exercise related about the vouching and there are verification. Then there are the stock verification. You have to be verify the particular. stock means then the sales ordinary course of business, then process of producers, then verification related of the stock and objective. What is you have to first of all ascertainment of correct P&L during the accounting year, then disclosure of true and fair financial position of business, then there are the preparation of correct statement of claim and loss of stock, then determination of the valuation of stock, then there are the basically you have to check on verification of stock and auditor duty as regarding verification of stock. Then you have to there are the a certain method of stock taking and basis of valuation, then ensure stock sheet, then check the calculation of and addition, and few important items which actual invoice has prices, then examine some quantities, then ascertain stock is valued on the same basis as in the previous years, ascertain obsolescence and unsellable stock. So there are the basically you have to be checked related about to the stock verification, and there are the some cases related about to the stocks. uh, सर पीसीपी ऑनलाइन पीसीपी एसओल आवाज आ रही है मेरी पीसीपी एसओएल पीसीपी एसओएल प्लीज रेस्पोंड पीसीपी एसओएल पीसीपी एसओएल मेरा टाइम हो गया है आई लीव द क्लास थैंक यू टू ऑल